Setuf in España. Setuf, how the heck are you this week?
I'm doing great, thanks. And yourself?
Not too shabby.
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear us? Uh-oh.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, good. Yeah, we're doing all right. So I see here listed that what you'd like to speak about is what is bodily autonomy. So I wanna do that with you. But I'm gonna spoiler alert. I've noticed that you in the call screening thing are labeled as a theist. So I would like to try to have a talk with you about that as well on the tail end of the bodily autonomy thing. So yeah, what is it that you're wondering about with respect to bodily autonomy?
Yeah, cool. So continuing our last conversation, more or less, which didn't go so well. But I still want to talk about abortion.
Okay. Are we talking about what is bodily autonomy or about, I guess just go ahead and dive in with whatever it is that you want to talk about, and we'll catch up. I'm showing you're still on the line there. Have we? I'm going to give it about 5 seconds. Setuf, if you're there, make a sound. All right, I'm going to return Setuf to the queue and see if we can't sort that out. In the interim, I guess, Lloyd, what's your take on bodily autonomy?
It sounds like he's more interested in talking about abortion.
I gotta say,
I guess
Setuf does have she/her as pronouns in the queue. So
okay, I do apologize. It sounds like she wants to talk about abortion, and in that case, my question would be, why didn't she say abortion when she was speaking to the call screeners? Why say bodily autonomy? So that would be my question.
That is a good question. Let me see if I'm not getting any feedback here about the call. We're looking like we're back. Okay, let's see. Setuf, how are we doing?
Hello?
There we go.
Hi, sorry, I got kicked out of the call. I don't know how much you heard about of what I was saying. I just realized at the end that I was disconnected.
Yeah, so just dive back in. Lloyd had a question for you real quick, if you want to hear that. I don't know if...
Yeah, I was just curious as to why not mention the abortion to the call screeners, because the call screeners wrote down bodily autonomy, and it sounds like your question is really more to do with abortion.
No particular reason. I just want to go to the body autonomy argument a bit deeper. I mean, it's not the first time I'm calling. I think the call screener and the other host knows exactly that I'm going to talk about abortion. So no particular reason. Just I want to talk particularly about bodily autonomy because I feel that it's like the main argument for being pro-abortion.
Okay, so I would say bodily autonomy is a person's their right to make decisions about what they do with their body and what is done to their body. They can make their own medical decisions. That there is a benefit to people having a right to be sort of self-determining with respect to their own bodies. It's a messy definition, but I think that pretty much covers it.
Okay, so would you say there are any exceptions for this rule or this understanding of body autonomy?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, for example, you know, we put people in jail here in the United States if they're a risk to other people. There are things that you can't do with your body if you're going to, you know, cause harm to someone else. That's usually where we draw the line.
Yeah.
Is if you're going to be doing something that's a harm to another person, that's considered not okay. The saying goes, you know, your right to swing your fist ends where my nose begins, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So you guys do not consider the fetus as another being at all, then? If you say that's like the limits of bodily autonomy, with other subjective being experience starts is where your first ends.
Well,
wouldn't this exception also apply for a fetus?
I think that there's, from my perspective, and I'm only speaking for myself here. I think that when I'm looking at it, it makes sense to me that there's a point at which I think I would feel comfortable referring to a developing fetus as a being, and a point where that the word being feels inappropriate when we're talking about, a clump of cells, a little, what do you call it, like a blastocyst, that I don't see any reason to think of that as a being. And I don't know exactly where that line is drawn, but even if that developing fetus is a being, I don't think that an argument can be made that a person carrying a fetus should be compelled to carry that fetus one instant beyond when they want to.
Okay. Even though this decision and the resulting action would result in the death of the fetus?
Could I just interject?
Yeah, dive in.
I just think it's really, really important that we are transparent here as to what the conversation even is at this point, because I just haven't heard an argument. So I guess my question would be, what is your actual argument? Because there's all sorts of nuances when it comes to the issue of abortion. And I personally feel uneasy talking about the subject as a man when we're talking about an issue where, that involves women, and where women routinely in many countries have their bodily autonomy violated by legislation, so that governments tell women what they can or can't do when it comes to their bodily autonomy.
And
so
generally by majority male, legislators.
The whole subject feels to me like I'm massively overstepping as a man commenting on this, although I do have opinions. But it's perhaps going to be more productive for the conversation if we actually hear what your argument is, if you have an argument.
Yeah. So firstly, in my view, I don't see the issue at all as you guys as men speaking about this, because this is a moral issue. It's not just a personal issue between one person and their organ, right? I think we've established that there is a subjective being involved here. And by that merit, I don't see the gender of who's discussing it at all.
Okay.
Maybe you guys agree with me. I don't know. But
okay, go on. View. Yeah.
Just to come to my argument. So my understanding of bodily autonomy, like you guys laid it out, like there are limits where it applies and where we can restrict it. And my argument is that I don't see it as right that this argument can be used to engage in an action that results in the death of another.
Lloyd, I love you because you cut through everything to get us to where this call needs to be.
Yeah.
So that was not an argument, Setuf. That was just a statement of how you feel about something.
Yeah.
So it would be, again, damn it, Lloyd. Why can't you be here all the time? Like, if we can get to premises and a conclusion, how would that look coming from you?
Okay. I don't really know how to do that, but I'll try from watching you guys' show. So premise one, it's wrong to kill another being without a very good justification. Premise two, abortion is engaging in killing another being without a very good justification. Conclusion, it is wrong to engage in abortion without a very good justification.
This is helpful.
I don't know if that makes sense for you guys.
So I've got P1, wrong to kill being without justification. Is that fair? Your first premise would be it is wrong to kill a being without justification. Premise two would be abortion without sufficient, or we can that's a good definition. Okay, without sufficient justification. Premise two, abortion is killing a being without sufficient justification. Therefore, conclusion, abortion is wrong. Well, listen, that argument, we do have premises that would lead to that conclusion. So we're halfway there. Mm-hmm. So now the question is, do these premises hold up to scrutiny?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to. This is an interesting thing because this can be a useful call. This is going to be your best call yet, Setuf. So when we're using heavily loaded words, we've got wrong, we've got kill, being, sufficient justification. These are big ideas that would need to be unpacked a little bit. So killing a being, I don't think of the vast majority of abortions as killing a being. I think of them as terminating a pregnancy. And my understanding is that when we're talking about late-term abortions, generally speaking, those are done out of some sort of medical necessity. It's pretty rare for those to be done otherwise. But even if somebody, late in their terms, like, you know what, I don't want to deliver this baby. I'm done. I can't do this. I'm wondering if maybe, even if we granted killing a being, if we were to zero in on sufficient justification, if that might be where things are useful.
Yeah.
I don't know. Lloyd, do you have thoughts here?
Okay.
I do have thoughts.
Yeah.
Well, my thoughts are that I disagree. And I don't think I'm going to persuade you. It's obviously something that you feel very strongly about. But I found it interesting at the beginning of the call, you talked about pro-abortion, those who are pro-abortion. Well, I am pro-choice, but that doesn't mean I'm necessarily pro-abortion. I don't rub my hands at the thought of children not being born, or babies or fetuses not making it through gestation so that they can be born. I don't rub my hands at that. And I can imagine when a woman goes to get an abortion, it must be, in the majority of cases, an incredibly traumatic thing for them to go through. And I can imagine a lot of scenarios in which they go through this situation as a last resort because they simply see no other way of doing it. And so when I think of abortion, I'm not thinking about it in like a warm, fuzzy way, like, oh, isn't abortion brilliant? Everyone should have abortions, you know? I'm thinking of abortion as something that people will surely be doing in the vast majority of cases through desperation, because they have no other option. Yeah. And when we're talking about when we're talking about the abortion debate, it's simply a case of, should women be allowed to have abortions, or should they not be allowed to have abortions? And when we're saying not allowed, what we're really saying is, should the government intervene and tell women what they can or can't do with their bodies? And that, to me, is an untenable solution. So where I moralize over all of this is to say it's easier if we just allow women the right to decide whether they will bring a baby to full term. And we moralize by saying a person is a person when they're born, because it's a lottery as to whether a sperm meets an egg to begin with, you know, and babies can be born with defects. Children can die. 9 million children die every year before they reach the age of 5. You know, this whole idea of life. And I noticed lots of people who speak out against abortion, they're interested in bringing children into the world, but not necessarily interested in the case of the Catholic Church and in the case of Jehovah's Witnesses with actually safeguarding those children once they're born. Yeah, which really irritates me personally.
Pro-birth is more accurate than pro-life.
I can't say I'm drastically interested in changing your mind. I just know that in my mind, I've thought about this an awful lot. And there simply is, I think the way Hitchens put it, there's no choice but pro-choice. And that's my view as well.
Well, what I would just answer to that, or ask towards that, is in your guys' pro-choice worldview, where is the choice of the fetus?
Well, have you just not been listening to what I've just said? Do I have to repeat myself? If I have to repeat myself, it's going to be a really, really long call. I've said that in my in my view, the way I justify it is
Yeah.
that a person becomes a person when they're born. So you're just taking us back to, oh, well, doesn't the person get a choice when they're in the womb, which negates what I've said. So this is what I mean. I'm sure you've developed a viewpoint, which it's going to be very, very difficult for me to dislodge. And I'm not all that interested in dislodging it, because my whole thing is religion, you know, and abortion, although religion comes into it in many cases, is really, as far as I can see, more of a political thing.
Yeah. Sorry if you feel like I was not listening, but I'm talking to two people with apparently two different views. So the other host did say at some point in the pregnancy they do consider that the fetus should have moral consideration, as far as I understood. So I'm not meaning to sound like...
So you're just talking past me. Okay, that's good to know.
No, sorry.
See, I completely agree with Lloyd yet again. I just I think the reason I was trying to zero in on the whole sufficient justification thing was because I tried in a previous call to have the discussion about what it means for something to be moral, and that didn't go well. So I'm trying to see, because the way that I'm looking at this, again, completely in agreement with Lloyd, but trying to just have the conversation with you to see, what we can do here. Even if we were to grant that a developing fetus is a being that deserves full moral consideration, when I think about sufficient justification through the lens of a discussion about bodily autonomy, okay, I don't think we need any more justification than the person carrying the baby wants out. I mean, there's all kinds of situations in our, in society where we recognize that terminating a being is necessary, or even a good, where those justifications can happen, right? So the question of what is the justification needed here to overcome any potential, wrongness, which again, this conversation is a mess out of the gate, because like we're smuggling in this idea of,
to be honest,
wrong.
I don't know what it has to do with religion. I signed up for
a
show where we talk about God or the non-existence of God, and I'm struggling to understand where this fits in. It's true. It's not my job to even talk about this. To be honest,
I'll tell you what, Setuf, what deity do you believe in? Because you are listed as a theist in the call screening thing. So what God or gods do you believe in?
So I used to be Christian until I've been watching you guys, not particularly you guys, but like Atheist Experience and so on since 10 years. Prior to that, I was Christian. But post that, I just believe in some creator, but not affiliated to any religion.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So why? Maybe there's an opportunity for a successful conversation here. Why do you believe that there's some sort of deity?
Yeah. So you guys disagree with my argument, with the premises and so on?
Yeah, absolutely. Very strongly and vehemently.
It's a bit of a mess. And in the interest of trying to have a productive conversation, maybe we can fixate on potentially a much easier question, to discuss, which would be why do you believe in a God?
And let me just spell out why I disagree with it. It's because your argument is presuppositional. Presuppositional arguments are the worst, quite frankly. So you presuppose that a fetus that hasn't been born yet should have the same rights as people who have been born. And I reject that premise entirely. And you can moralize all you like about how they should have the same rights, but objectively they simply don't, if we're talking on a human rights basis. So that's why I reject your argument. And it also doesn't have anything really to do with religion, although there are many religions who are anti-abortion, and I have to drive past a hospital on an almost daily basis here in Sisak in Croatia, which is a very Catholic country, where there are Catholics stood outside the maternity ward with signs trying to traumatize women who are in an incredibly desperate situation going through an unthinkable dilemma. And these Catholics think, in this particular locality at least, think it's the Christian thing to do to exacerbate their trauma and make things even more stressful and difficult for them. That's their version of Christ-like love. So I do feel quite strongly on it. It's just that it has absolutely nothing to do with religion. And I signed up to talk about religion on this show.
Yeah. And I'm actually about to go through the same thing. I'm moving to a much more conservative part of the United States in a week. And when I was out there doing some home shopping recently, yeah, there was people out with signs outside of clinics and things, and harassing women who are, trying to get some basic healthcare stuff done. Yeah. So what's interesting is that oftentimes in the United States, the types of views that you're, advocating for with respect to abortion do stem from some sort of religious ideology. Super patriarchal religious ideology, typically. So yeah, let's walk it back. Let's talk about your God belief, and maybe that can open the door to some sort of more productive thing going on here. So why do you believe there's a God?
Because I cannot explain reality. It's an irrational belief. I cannot prove it, but just the experience of having a subjective experience. For me, I can really not understand it, that the universe would just create this for no particular reason, or not necessarily particular reason, but just create this way. There was no necessity for it, in my view. That's why, but I cannot provide you any evidence. I don't expect anybody to believe it from these arguments. I'm not basing my views on abortion on anything to do with what a deity is saying.
Sure. Well, let's just table the abortion thing for now. So, it is unusual on these types of call-in shows for people to openly admit that they hold an irrational position, which is what it sounded to me like you just did. I could have sworn I heard you say that nobody has any reason to follow the line of reasoning that you're using for your God belief to the same conclusion. If that's the case, why would you hold such a position?
As I said, just for the mere reason that we have consciousness in this reality, and there is no way that it makes sense to me that a universe would create something like this where there is no necessity for it, because plants can live and thrive, if you're talking about living matter, without needing any consciousness or subjective experience. And just the fact that we do have the molecules and atoms and stuff like this in this universe to even create something like that is for me incredible. And it's just
so,
out of lack of understanding, basically.
Is it really that simple that it just boils down to sort of personal incredulity?
I guess so.
You don't have a problem with that? And you don't have a problem with that. I mean, I think that when I'm talking to people who use these types of arguments or base their beliefs on these types of faulty reasoning, the question becomes, well, do you care about whether or not the things you believe are true?
Yeah, I do. Of course, I do care about that very strongly. And that's why I said that I cannot prove it. This is basically an assumption I'm making. I'm not saying this is true. This is the fact. This is the reality we're living in. It's just me from my little brain and my little understanding of the universe saying, what the hell? Why is there these materials which can even make something like subjective experience where there is no necessity for that? So from that, I say, okay, there might be or should be something else. But it's not based on me having observed anything and stuff like this. As I said, I was Christian up until a few years ago. But you guys, thanks to you and the reasoning and stuff like this, I've moved away from that. So I was able to change my mind, thankfully, and I thank you guys for that, like the whole ACA and so on. And but with the abortion issue, I just still kind of disagree. There was a point where I actually did think your arguments were reasonable, but at this point in time, I believe that your arguments are flawed for being
presuppositional reasons.
Abortion is
Okay.
Yeah. Question begging reasons.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last question I'm gonna have for you, because we're gonna move. We've got 2 more callers I want to get to. Would be, do you think it would be more honest? And this is this is a loaded question. I'm steering you toward a conclusion. Okay. Do you think it would be more honest, instead of putting a creator God into the gap in your knowledge, to recognize the gap in your knowledge and go, I don't know. What do you think is the more honest thing to do as a person? You just said a moment ago, you care about whether or not the things that you believe are true.
100% to say, I don't know. And that is my path. That is where I'm moving towards. But as you guys know, if you're believers before, it's not that easy as, hey, this does not make sense and let me just leave it. There is a lot of baggage there, tradition, culture, family, and so on. So I agree with you. My goal, or I see myself going to the side of becoming an atheist in the near future, I guess, if I can say it like that. Because I do want to hold true beliefs. And this is, to some extent, an irrational belief, even though I'm still trying to rationalize it, like I explained it, with matter creating subjectivity and so on. But I do recognize that there you are right, that, I should probably ditch that. But I'm not yet there yet.
Well, I think we'll leave it at that. Lloyd, do you have any final thoughts for this call?
She's not interested in my opinion because she talked past me before, and it's mutual. I'm not really interested in hers. So, yeah.
All right. Well, there we go. Still, I would say this has been our most successful dialogue, Setuf. So hopefully we can trend somewhere more positive in the future, and listen to Lloyd. But in the meantime, have an excellent week.
Thanks so much, guys. Enjoy.
All right. Cool.